and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and with me on the line, first of all over there, we've got Eddie. Hello there, Eddie, old boy.
Hello, Lord H. I'm sickening. I'm not feeling my best, mate. To be honest, I'm taking one for the team tonight because I could definitely be feeling better. I could be tucked up in bed with a hot toddy, watching the Brit Awards. Some of those lovely gyrating ladies. But I'm not. I'm here. I'm doing it because I value you. I value your friendship, and I value this podcast, and I value our fans.
And you certainly don't want a visit from Jeeves.
Absolutely not.
And also on the line, of course, the mainstay of the little program we've got here is Beastie. Hello there, Beastie, old boy.
Good evening, fellow podcasters and podcasting nation.
How the devil are you, old boy?
Well, I'm well. I am raring to go and really get my teeth sunk into this 0-0 draw.
Right, so chaps, let's crack on with some football, shall we? And as BC said, it was an extraordinarily eventful game over there at Birmingham. I mean, BC, I suppose you were there at the game, old boy. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, I was there. But as soon as you see 0-0, you automatically think a ball draw, don't you? And to be honest, I didn't think it was that bad, or maybe it's just me getting old and settling for the easier things. I was entertained by it. Whether that was because it were two evenly matched sides struggling at the bottom or not, I don't know. But for what it's worth, I thought that we were the better side. You could see in the Birmingham side why they're on this run that they're on and why they are in desperate trouble, because 13,000 Birmingham fans turned out for that. That is a poor do. It don't seem 2 minutes since we were going down there and playing them in Cup, and that place were absolutely stuffed with Birmingham City fans, but not now. And Stephen Young, who we were with, said the worst thing about it being down there is you can feel it, the atmosphere. It's like when we went down. There's like a feeling of doom and gloom, almost of despair, like they've given up the hope. And that it's the same on the pitch. It's the same in the stands. The whole club is going through this really nasty period. And long may it continue. Because
I thought there was the milk of human kindness coming out then for a minute, but no, the door was slammed, the portcullis was dropped. Oh my word!
No, Sodom, it's Birmingham City. As long as it's happening to them, it's not happening to us. And there were, I mean, Birmingham had absolutely loads of chances. This wasn't our finest hour. On this run that we're on at the moment, we've seen a lot of good things from our players, and we've seen why we're on this run. Well, last night, we weren't at our best. And a decent side would have put us to the sword in that first half, and they would have scored 2, 3, maybe even 4. But we got away with it, and we rode us luck, and we worked don't get me wrong, we had our chances, but we worked his way into the game. We had Martin Taylor slotting into the defence because of Gardner missing, and Liera moved over into Gardner's slot. And I thought them two worked well together last night. And Liera's one of them players that's had a fair amount of criticism throughout the season, and he's got his supporters and his detractors. And last night I thought he was a colossus. He was absolutely fantastic. Pretty much nothing got past him last night. And Martin Taylor, all right, there were a few grumbles from the Wednesday fans when he took to the pitch, and there were a few boos and moans with his first few touches. But again, he really grew into that part, and he was absolutely fantastic by the end of the game. And the two fullbacks, Danny Pugh's as dependable as ever, but Lewis Buxton last night again was absolutely top class. He really was. I wish Fudge were here because I could really have a go at him and see if he can still say that he's dreadful, because he won't last night. All the defence were fantastic, even allowing for how poor Birmingham's attack was, and they really were poor. Marlon King is not my favourite player by a long way. For all sorts of reasons, but he really is dreadful now. But as bad as he is, they have a worse player.
It's another.
There is another, yeah. Zigic.
My word! I mean, chaps. I mean, obviously we were seeing highlights. Listened to it on the wireless there on the day, but every time I got near the goal, he was kicking the ball with the wrong foot, and he actually ran it out at one point, I believe, as well. It was unbelievable. I mean, we've seen our fair share of oddness up front at Sheffield Wednesday, chaps. But I mean, my word, Eddie, have you ever seen anything like it?
Never a footballer, Zigic. You know what he reminds me of, and I'll nail me flag to the mast here. As a kid, I was a big wrestling fan, WWF and all this sort of business. And what they used to do, they used to have blokes who were kind of small and nippy and could tell a good story in the ring and carry a match and all this sort of stuff. And then every now and again, they'd get some bloke in for no other reason that he was about 8 foot tall. He had muscles bulging everywhere. And he looked like he was an absolute killer. He looked like he could be the single most dangerous man who ever lived.
The Giant Gonzalez, they were called.
Exactly, yeah, Giant Gonzalez. Exactly. This is exactly what I'm thinking of. Because Nikola Zigic, minus the strange kind of all-in-one bodysuit with Yeti hair on it, is exactly the same bloke. He's been brought in because they think that an imposing physical presence can completely undo any issues that you've got with menial things like talent and touch and control and vision and intelligence. He has never been a footballer, and I can't imagine. It seems to be that there's Nikola Zigic, and remember Jurgen Koller a few years ago? Jurgen Koller could actually play to a certain extent, but oh no, I can only assume that Zigic is the result of some sort of ridiculous East European scientific experiment that went wrong, and the government weren't allowed to talk about it, and he's ended up. That was his relocation by the Secret Service was, you're going to be a footballer, and if anyone asks, you're a striker. Just go to Birmingham. Just go to Birmingham and see how it works out.
Well, let me give you an extensive list of his attributes. Are you ready? Number 1, he's tall.
What's the rest, Beastie?
No, that's it.
All right, it's the end of the list.
That's it. He has no touch, no pace, no skill. He is devoid of anything remotely resembling a footballer.
To be fair,
right?
he's got a pretty cool name.
Well, if you're talking about the name that they were calling him last night, yeah, it was pretty cool, yeah. But it definitely wasn't Zigic. I've honestly never, ever seen a footballer as bad as that. And bear in mind, if the rumours are true, he's on £55,000, £60,000 a week.
Well, those are the decisions that clubs have made. And God knows, we've been on the receiving end of some of those decisions. But they're the decisions that clubs have made in the past. And it always cost them. You're right, Zigic apparently £50,000 a week. It was at Portsmouth. They had that striker at Portsmouth, didn't they? That was on 50, 60 grand a week.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely terrible. And these are the things that can absolutely make you or break you as a club.
Yeah.
And you bang on. And I talked last week about my brother-in-law being a big Blues fan, and he's absolutely slitting his wrists at what is happening at that club, because they're in exactly the same downward spiral as we were after we came out of the Premier League 10 years ago. So I have trouble as a football fan not having any sympathy for them, or at least having some empathy for them. But I don't have any sympathy at all. 13,000 turning out there last night. That's embarrassing. Even our small town city neighbours can must have better than that in a division lower. So I understand you're on a downward spiral, but I'd struggle to remember fewer than 16 or 17, even when Wednesday were at our lowest ebb. So I don't like Birmingham as a club. I don't like the fans. I don't like the fact they think they're entitled, and I don't like the fact that they think that they're actually on a level with the likes of Villa and West Brom, and even Wolves. To be fair, they're a bit of a second-rate team. So I'm a bit upset that we didn't do better than a 0-0 last night. But it just seemed, and it's something you tweeted, Beast, that kind of really rang true with me, is that you said that our two central midfielders, who have been so amazing, we've sung their praises the last few weeks. He said Coke was just like old Coke, and Prutton is anonymous. And there you go. That has always been the kind of the crux of why we weren't delivering earlier on in the season, is because in midfield we didn't have it. Now, I really hope that we're not in a position now where kind of that little bonus of having those two back and then playing really well, that isn't going to desert us again, because a better team, there are better teams than Birmingham, and better teams than that will punish us.
The problem you have is when them two go missing, your wide players, Helan and Antonio, have then to come inside, and that's what they kept doing, and we were missing out on what they give us to the game. A lot of people have said that Helan had a bad game. The reason he had a bad game is because he was trying to, in effect, make up for those two going missing in the midfield, and like you said, we've sung their praises, Prutton and Coke. Recently, they're as much a part of this good run as anybody. They've been right there as the heartbeat of it all in the middle of the pitch. But last night, it pains me to say it, but they went missing last night, and we really, really did miss them. And like I said, as such, the other two suffered. Antonio ran his socks off last night. There were a moment in the last few minutes, he went down with cramp with about 3 or 4 minutes to go. So it shows you how much he'd done. But he came over right in front of us to take a corner, and he had nothing left. He couldn't even lift his feet. He'd put that much in. And I mean, bless him, he had run about a lot, but he was part of our attacking problem last night. I love the lad to bits. There's probably a player in our entire squad that puts as much effort and commitment to the cause as Antonio does. But he's developing this JJ-esque decision-making thing. When he goes forward, he can have 1 or 2, maybe 3 options, and pound to a pinch of the bad stuff, he picks the wrong option. Every single time he does it. And we got ourselves into some really good situations last night, with the fantastic Lewis Buxton bombing down the outside as Antonio cut in, screaming for the ball in acres of space, and instead he tried to go for the Hollywood shot, and obviously it didn't count. It went way over the bar or way wide.
So are we saying then that glove face, as much as we've been worried about that, we need to start being worried about spoon boot, because spoon boot can afflict players at the other end of the pitch?
Yeah, well, I think Liera started off with spoon boot, didn't he? And obviously he's passed his spoon boot itis on to somebody else. JJ had a little bit of it, didn't he? He spooned one over at Charlton that still ain't come down. And yeah, last night there was a hell of a lot of that going on. It affected both sides, to be fair.
Interesting, though, again, that we've got, probably for the first time in quite a while, we've had a below-par performance. And it's the same two names who actually stand up and be counted when maybe our back's against the wall or we're not dominating a game. Buxton and Lera, I think that's when they absolutely excel, is when other players are going missing or for whatever reason the team isn't performing the way that we know it can. Those two lads always seem to really take a game by the scruff of the neck and guide us out of a dangerous situation. Because if they didn't have Zigic up front, it could well have been very different. It's fantastic that we've got leaders in that team, like Lera, like Buxton, who will actually stand up and be counted when things aren't going the way that we all want it to go.
Yeah, I can't sing their praises enough about last night. They were both very cool under pressure, as were Martin Taylor. I thought Lita did reasonably well as well. And I thought Dave Jones made some good substitutions. It was a big decision to take off Connor Wickham when he did. And most of us realised that he was going to make a change around about that time. And I thought he would take Lita off, and I actually thought he would bring JJ on and put him up front. But it was a sensible decision to take Connor Wickham off, put JJ on alongside Lita, and it did galvanise us a little bit in them last few minutes. It had a really nice effect on us. I just wish he'd have brought Reece McCabe on a little bit earlier so that he could have had a bit more of an effect on game. But I've got to tell you one little incident with Martin Taylor. He came up for every corner, every set piece, and he was so unlucky. He got a couple of headers on target, I think, but one of the times he picked the ball up just outside the box right in front of us, and he danced his way into the box, right? Forget Messi, forget Ronaldo, forget any of them, right? This is Martin Taylor, right? dancing, twinkle-toed, past 2 defenders into the box. And he was so unlucky. It just, I mean, obviously it came to nothing because it was 0-0, but it was just a wonderful bit of skill to see. When you see such a big bloke like that dancing on his tiptoes in and out, it's a wonder to behold, isn't it? You know, it's like Bambi on ice. You're just waiting for the tip-up point, and it was just great to see. It got one of his headers smack bang on target. It rose like the proverbial salmon, got his header downwards. It were going in, and shooting in right at the back was Gary Medine to defend it. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, you're kidding me.
It was ridiculous.
It just got in the way of it. Obviously, it was trying to help the ball home, but instead it got in the way and blocked it.
50 pence head, straight off it.
Yeah.
Well, there was another corner as well, chaps. It had been popped in there in Liera, stonking Liera corner type header, and credit where it's due, chaps, the Birmingham keeper made an absolutely stunning save, absolute world class save.
Yeah, it did. And when you think back to the game at our place, young Butland were responsible for at least 2, probably all 3 of their goals, wasn't he? Or he had a big say in them. But last night that made up for it all, really, because if he don't pull that save off there, shows how strong he is and how quick. They lose that game.
Well, that's been touted about as a sort of an upcoming keeper, and
yep.
When we saw him at our place, I couldn't see it myself, but I mean, after last night's performance, fair play to the chap. I had a belter. And again, of course, looking back, chaps, it was one of Dave Jones's little foibles he had about us at the beginning of the season. These shots from outside the box, and we need to be getting in there. And I mean, from last night's performance, we've got to agree, really.
Yeah, and they were right. We take far too many long-distance shots. What is the point in taking a shot from 20, 30 yards, especially when we've got players going forward? It's so annoying, so frustrating.
I think we have to train those lads out of that, though, to be honest, because until very recently, until the last 3 or 4 games, we haven't had strikers in there reliably to be trusted to play the ball in and let them do the job. So, especially the likes of JJ and Antonio. But also, it's something that has been spread across those midfielders. They've had to take shots because I don't think the confidence has been there from the lads who were paid to put the ball in the net. So, yeah, that's going to have to change. But I think, after half a season of having to take a few pot shots, I think it's going to be a tough habit to break.
Yeah, that's fair comment, is that, Eddie? Actually, I can get on board with that. But we've had players, we've had Lita for 2 or 3 games now, and whenever Medine's played, that's what he's screaming for. He's screaming for ball in. So whilst ever they're going to take pot shots from distance, the opposition keeper's got to be favourite every time, hasn't he? Unless he's unsighted, they'll take them all day. Now, as you say, we've got to learn, get the ball into these good players now into the box, and let's see what they can do.
So yeah, absolutely, chaps. It seems to have been just a rather dull affair all round. Beastie, any other thoughts on the game?
No, I ended up being disappointed about it all. But in them last few minutes, it had the feeling of a sucker punch game where either side could have scored, and on reflection, it probably wouldn't have been fair to either of us. But I've got to tell you one more incident that happened just to the right of us. Tango was stood exchanging pleasantries with the locals in the nearby stand, and Tango was with a young lady, and the Birmingham City fans were questioning whether Tango's sexual exploits. Whether the lady always has to get on top, obviously because of his physique. To which Tango decided it would be a good idea to show all the Birmingham fans a mime demonstrating that was not necessary.
Oh, my word.
So he set about this young lady he was with. I presume he knew her. I hope he did. But in doing this mime, he managed to fall on top of her and land in a crumpled heap. It's how I imagine the effect would be if you dropped a truck onto a cow. right. Right. Not only did he fall on top of her, and all you could see was cartoon-style hands and feet sticking out from underneath him, but they then rolled down the stairs onto the walkway, and it was just, it couldn't have happened any better. Obviously, the Birmingham fans thought it was absolutely fantastic. Needless to say, he didn't sing for a while after that, but it was quite funny. I just thought
he's a character, isn't he? You don't so much sit with Tango as sit amongst him. It's an occupational hazard, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, most of the songs that they sing at him, he takes them all in good part. Fair play to him, and he gives them it back, and they give it to him. They all come up with the same song, and they all think that they've just thought of it. But it's always the same song, isn't it?
I think we're about 20 years into that song now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, yeah. But fair play to him. It made everybody laugh around us last night anyway.
A marvellous advocate for the club. So, as I was saying there, chaps, puts the Birmingham game to bed. A pretty dull affair all around. I just do hope we don't come to regret this towards the end of the season. It could have really given us a bit of a boost, and especially how tight it is down there at the moment. And it's got to be said, chaps, we're looking at a difficult road ahead. We've got 5 games coming up. Crystal Palace, Forest, who again had a belting result on Tuesday. Watford, Leicester, and then Cardiff. 5 really difficult games coming up now, chaps.
Yeah, I know we've talked about how tight this division is, and it is tight. I mean, let's be honest. Forest moved up to 8th after that absolute hammering of Huddersfield last night. But even there, only 10 points clear of the drop zone. So any team that gets a run together is going to absolutely catapult up that league. But you look at those next 5 games, and it's a big ask. It would be great to be taking some real good form, the sort of form that Barnsley is showing at the moment. Going into those 5 games with that sort of form, you'd think, yeah, you know what, it doesn't matter who you put in front of us, we're going to do a good job of it. I think what's important for us is not to worry too much about win. Let's just get those performances driving forward. Let's see what we can do. Certainly the next 2 games at home, I'd like to think that if we can get off on the right foot, get off on the front foot against both of those teams, that we can do enough to pick up 3 points. But I've got to say that it's, that kind of Tuesday, Saturday, Watford away followed by Leicester away. If we come away with 2 points out of those 2, I won't be too disappointed.
Absolutely.
Because there's the chance, if we're not alive to it, that we could go into absolutely crucial games at the end of March and into April, where we're playing against Barnsley, against Bristol City, against Blackburn. This is, we don't want to go in there with our heads hanging low. So it's going to be a real test for us. Let's not get it wrong. But let's keep in mind that there isn't a massive gulf between any teams in this division. So what we need to do as fans is really get behind the lads and get that kind of real positive, aggressive, the atmosphere we saw second half against Derby. That's our responsibility, and the players, the team, the squad have a responsibility to really put teams under the cosh. And I don't really mind if we're really pushing forward, using those flanks and getting in behind them. Yeah, and even if we get caught on the break, it's happened enough. We know that we can come back from 1-0 down and even 2-0 down. So let's worry about putting other teams under pressure, because if there's one thing we've lacked this year, it's been goals. So we've shown that if we can get ahead, we're a very, very hard team to break down. So that would be the way. If I was Dave Jones, I'd want to play these next 2 games certainly, because I don't think we can underestimate these teams, but I think we're in danger of overestimating them. Palace, they weren't that much a better team than us when we played them at their place, and I'm not that impressed by Forest. I think they're probably towards the top of where their expectations are at the moment in the league. So let's get off on the right foot. Let's say 4 points out of 6 will be a decent run going into those 2 away games at Watford and Leicester.
I don't have a problem with next 2 games at all. As you say, I don't think either team is all that and a bag of potato chips or whatever it is you kids say.
Very American of your Beastie.
I thought Palace got away with murder at their place with us. Now I know that they are a totally different side these days under crazy, what's his face?
What?
Yeah, well, Holloway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but it's Ian Holloway. We've beaten his sides before. I really don't. I don't think they are a fantastic side. Like you say, they're just a reasonable championship side. I expect us to beat them. I really do expect us to beat them at home on the run that we're on. Especially at home, like you say, get the crowd behind them, and we'll beat them. And Forest, if ever a team looked average that we've played this season, it's Forest. They stole 3 points off us, and we're definitely getting 3 points back off them. I absolutely 100% cast iron guarantee we will beat Notts Forest. I absolutely promise everybody we will beat Nottingham Forest.
Don't say that,
The
Beastie.
value of your investment
look,
go up and down.
Right,
You consult with a licensed financial advisor before engaging in any financial transaction on this podcast.
right. The games after that are the ones that are a slight cause for concern, Watford and Leicester. I still think it's possible for us to maintain the unbeaten run, should I say, rather than the winning run. But they will be difficult games. And as long as we can keep this good feeling going, I think we'll be fine. What we need to do is get to the Barnsley game with the good mood amongst the Sheffield Wednesday fans and players intact. And if we can get to the Barnsley game with all that intact, Barnsley will kickstart a season again like they did before.
Well, by that time, Coggle have worked his magic and completely destroyed them from the inside. I mean, looking at the results from Tuesday there, chaps, I mean, nobody can predict this league. It's ridiculous. I mean, you look at the Peterborough 5, Millwall 1. I mean, if you'd had £1 on that game, you'd never have to work again for the rest of your life. It's just unbelievable. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And yes, you've got your main seat. You've got your, as you said there, Beastie. Watford seem to be very, very stable at the moment, doing very, very well at the moment. Cardiff have had the slips up recently as well, chaps. I mean, lost 2-0 to Brighton. So it just goes to show. I mean, again, with Wednesday in the whole match. Nobody really expecting that result, and it gets pulled off. It's really just a case of the chaps believing in themselves, as B said, keeping that good feeling around the club. And again, it did seem to be lacking a little bit on Tuesday night against Birmingham.
I'm almost a little bit upset that we're playing, Watford and Leicester and Cardiff in March rather than a little bit close to the end of the season, because I still think it's a little bit too early for those teams to really get the jitters. But when they get into April and those teams that are really fighting it out, in the top six, especially if they're, hovering between automatic and the playoffs, that's when you start getting some really interesting results, etc. And it might just come a little bit too early for us. But let's turn it round. There is no way that any of these clubs that we're playing the next 5 games are looking forward to playing against Sheffield Wednesday. They would much sooner be playing against a Birmingham or a Wolves or a Huddersfield, who really are struggling at the moment. We've got to remember how far we've come from being absolutely dead last bottom just before Christmas to being right in that group of teams that are now in a full tilt relegation fight. When the team in 14th, Millwall, are still only 4 points clear of the team that are fourth bottom, every team can get dragged into this still. So what we have to do, because we've been in a relegation fight since the end of September, let's be honest, we need to use that experience of knowing that we have to pick up points by hook or by crook. And we'll claw our way up the table, while there's teams that haven't had to deal with the idea that maybe they're having to battle against relegation. They're going to get dragged into it. So let's not look at the teams that we've got to play and think, oh, bloody hell, it's going to be difficult to do that. Let's keep, as Beast says, let's keep that momentum going. It doesn't have to be win every game, but you know what? Let's try and get through these next 5 games unbeaten. Even if we only pick up 5 points, to be honest, it might not look great in the table, but the team and the players will not have felt that feeling of defeat, and that'll be a good position to be in going into the running.
If we can pick up 5 points from, if we could pick up 5 points from 5 games, if we went through 5 games unbeaten, picking up 5 points, what we need to bear in mind is those other teams that you mentioned that are on a rapid downward spiral. The Huddersfield, the Millwall, Ipswich. All right, Birmingham might have altered the slide with that draw against us, but it's only temporary, isn't it? Wolves. All these teams are really, really in the doldrums at the moment, and they are heading only one way. Whereas, whilst we're treading water, if you like, we are still paddling this way up the league, albeit very, very slowly.
Yeah, we picked up a place, didn't we, last night? And that's one more team that is between us and relegation. So those points can really make a difference.
And some of those teams now have played a game more than us.
Correct.
Birmingham, Ipswich, Wolves have all played 33 games. And all right, Wolves are below us already, but Ipswich and Birmingham are only a point and 2 points above us. So one win and we go above them. So there's still plenty to play for, and there's teams that are in a far worse situation than us. And even though it looks like a heavy fixture list for us over the next few games because we've got them all in such a short space of time, all these other teams still have to play them as well. So it ain't going to get any easier for them, just as it's not getting any easier for us.
Oh, you can always count on Beastie to put things in perspective, can't you, chaps? My word. Yeah, I feel so much better now, Beastie. It's always a pleasure, always a pleasure. So then, chaps, we'll pop on to a little bit of other Wednesday news. Of course, we did sort of skip a little bit last week, and we've had, as Beastie rightly pointed out, Mr. Corrie has gone out on loan as well. There, Beastie, to play straight. He has been playing for the under-21s. He played a few games there for the under-21s for the Wednesdays, but of course, been sent out a bit more competitive. Do we think, chaps? Do you think this loan spell is going to do the young lad good?
It's going to do him good, and it's going to do Tranmere good. And we need them to do good because they've got some business to sort out in that division, haven't they? So the more Wednesday players we can get into that Tranmere side or that Donny Rovers side to help them with a little bit of a boost, then the better. So, let's send them all over there for a while.
Can we not pay about 20%, 30% of Nikola Zigic's wages and send him on loan at Bramall Lane? Is that not possible?
That would have a really good effect on him. I'm sure it would.
Oh, it's definitely a tactic. So, for this, would you not like to see? Would you not like the derbies back next season?
Oh, you know what? As much as I absolutely hate it when it's Derby Day, because we've talked about this before. The potential that there is to lose, almost is more than the glory of what there is to gain. But looking back at last season, it's hard to turn around and say I don't want that feeling again. I don't want to have the opportunity for that again. But then there's a little part of me, and we every year or every time that we're coming up playing against Crystal Palace, I always immediately think back to that 1991-92 season when we played them away from home, penultimate game of the season, and if we'd won, we'd have gone level on points. We're Leeds at the top of the league. We would have had a real chance of winning the league, etc. And so I'll think back to that season, and okay, we didn't win it, and we ended up 7 points back. But there were 2 games that season where we played against the Pigs, and they were a useless team. They were terrible. They had pub players, and we had the best Wednesday side in living memory. They had pub players, and they beat us home and away. Absolutely. And that's what keeps me from thinking, you know what? Yeah, I really want the derbies back. I want both Sheffield teams to be in the top division, battling it out and blah blah. No, I don't. I'd be quite happy if I never had to play them ever again. I'd be quite happy if they went out of business. I'd be quite happy if I never had to see another red and white striped shirt. Only when I got to Sheffield, because you don't see them anywhere else. It's not like Wednesday. We're not massive. You never ever see a blade anywhere else other than Sheffield. It'd be wonderful for them to just not exist anymore. Or potentially they could exist, but just be playing 10 or 15 divisions below us.
Hang on a minute, Eddie. If they went out of business, my mate, Paul the Pig, would have to change his surname. What would I call him? Right,
the Pauper.
Paul the what?
The Pauper.
No, that's not got the same thing ring to it. I like his surname. It suits him. And there's loads of them that would have to change the name. There's Barry the Pig, Brian the Pig. You're not thinking about
family.
You're not thinking about the bigger picture. Yeah, look, everybody's the same, Wednesday fan or United fan. We all have that sick feeling for a week or 2 weeks before the games, and we all say we hate it. But really, we love it. When, as soon as the game's over and we've won, we love it, absolutely love it. And I always think the same as you, Eddie. Would I want them back? Yeah, in isolation, I would take those games every time. The season when we did the double over them, right? I was at both games, and I don't think you can beat that feeling, that moment when we realised that we'd done it for the first time in 90 odd years. It was just something special, and I would want to experience that again. But we have far more important things to think about at this moment in time, and having them up in the same division as us whilst we're trying to build for our future really won't help. In fact, it could have the opposite effect. It could set us back. And if we can get rid of as many difficult games as we can like that, then I'm all for it. Get rid of Leeds, get rid of Dingles, keep them all in League One, right?
Yeah, let's just rewind back to those last few years we were in the Premier League, where you actually I used to listen to Praise or Grumble. And it used to just be, it'd be like a fun little, kind of sitcom. You didn't really care what was going on because they were Wednesday, and then after that, it were all lower leagues, wasn't it? It was great to hear about Chesterfield doing well. It was great to hear about Johnny Rovers in a bottom tier. It was great to hear about Adrian Heath leading the Blades into the bottom three. But it didn't matter. It didn't concern us. I'd love to be back in that position where I couldn't care less about any of the local teams.
Exactly. When Rotherham can't get 500 at a home game, but at one of our games, like they get 10,000. We only sold them like 3,000 tickets, but when they beat us, they sell 10,000 I was there T-shirts.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? Look, get Rotherham, get Chesterfield, get the Blades, get Leeds, get the Dingles, Donny, and start up a new Matalan League. Right? Stick them all in there. Right? Stick them all in there, right? And zip it shut. Right? And then let the rest of the footballing world get on with it.
Oh, you're no fun at all, you chaps. You're no fun at all. Anyway, so yes, back to Mr. Corrie. Yes, we have. We're not saying a great deal because he has been sort of foisted into the squad a little bit earlier than we liked earlier on in the season. But we mentioned it before, chaps. People off away on loan and coming back superstars. But I mean, I really do rate this young lad, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results when he comes back.
It's the perfect move again. To be honest, I could just press play on what I said over the last couple of weeks' podcast, because this is what these lads were bought, and this was what the intention was going to be. They're learning their trade. If they can get some first-team matches, then brilliant. But it really shouldn't be first-team matches in the blue and white stripes. We should be looking at and I'm not doing any disrespect to these clubs in the lower division, but almost a feeder club type mentality, feeder club like system where we have close relationships with managers, with coaching staffs at other clubs, that they will give them plenty of playing time, nurture them the way that we want them nurtured, play the right sort of football with them, and give them that match experience. And, I wish him all the luck in the world. I think it's going to be great for him. This is not a case, and we've seen this an awful lot, of players who can't fit in at Hillsborough going off on loan, and it's a loan with a view to a permanent move, etc. This is not that. This is a loan specifically to make Corrie a better player for when he comes back to Hillsborough. And even if he goes out on loan again next season, eventually he's going to come back and he's going to be able to do the business at the level that we need him to in the blue and white stripes. And I think it's a good move. It's exactly what we should have done. Well, not at the start of the season. It's exactly the idea that we had at the start of the season for what these players are going to be doing, and they're doing it. And you know what? If as a byproduct he fires Tranmere into one of those two promotion spots and they deny that other club, I can't remember their name, then fantastic. All the better.
And to be fair, I mean, we're providing the same service, shall we say, to other clubs. I mean, you look at your Ben Marshalls and players like that. I mean, with Monsieur Helan at the moment, I mean, he looks like a promising player. I don't know if he'll ever quite get into that Man City side as it stands at the moment, boys. But I mean, that's the entire point of the loan system altogether. I mean, everybody's done it, from your Beckhams. It used to make tea on the bus down there, and it just gives them a little bit of the ground. You've got to be, at some point, you've got to be at the bottom of the pecking order, and you've got to wait away. And the loan system is absolutely perfect for that. Absolutely perfect. So then, chaps, shall we have a little bit of a closer inspection of this Palace game we've got coming up? Of course, we've heard Beastie's views. Beastie clearly thinks we're going to absolutely destroy them. And to be fair, we did play them at their place, and it did put that little bit of a break on our season. Of course, the penalty shouts that went and never was and came back and just basically screwed up the entire game for us. But I mean, it's got to be said, Beastie, although I admire your optimism, old boy, glasses are full and all that, but they've been knocking together some decent results, and it's got to be said, they're not a terrible team at the moment.
Well, yeah, but you're including knocking together decent results to beat Bristol City, right? You're going to be expecting that. We were on about this last week when Huddersfield got beat 3-0 by Derby, and like we've just mentioned now, Notts Forest beating Huddersfield 6-1. You expect them results, right? There's nothing great about Crystal Palace beating Bristol City. I think it was at Palace as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
So you know that's a showing, isn't it? That's top of anybody's coupon.
Absolutely, but again, I mean, I know Middlesbrough are on a bit of a slide. Well, I say a bit of a slide. They was on a slide in January, aren't they, Middlesbrough? But I mean, Palace thumped them 4-1.
Right.
Yeah. Let's be honest. We've talked about this division being fairly flat, fairly even. It's individual players and individual runs of form and individual performances that really make the difference in this division. And like it or not, Palace have got Zaha, who basically ran the show for the first third of the season, and now they've got Glenn Murray, who is he the leading scorer in the country at the moment?
Yeah.
Certainly the leading scorer in the Championship. You know, we underestimate them at our peril, and we have to stop them. We absolutely have to stop them. We shut them down. Palace have got nothing else. You look through their team; they've got nobody who. I don't honestly think that they've got another 9 players who would get into our side. I don't think they're a good team, but they've got players who are absolutely bang on the money at the moment. Last year we couldn't stop Jordan Rhodes, and we paid for it. This year we have to be able to stop those absolute key players.
Well, perhaps that's why Ant Gardner didn't play last night then.
Yeah, possibly.
Because Dave Jones saw that as an easy point at least. So he thought, right, I can rest him here, make sure he's right for Saturday, and we can cut out their play. But I've got their results up, recent results up in front of me now, and you tell me which of these results you find as a shock, right? They beat Bristol City at home 2-1. They beat Middlesbrough at home 4-1. They drew away with Watford 2-2. They beat Charlton at home 2-1. Right, and before that, right, if we're talking about them being a good side and looking for promotion, they were beaten away by Huddersfield. And we've just discussed about the expectations of everybody beating Huddersfield. But Huddersfield beat Palace at home 1-0. So if they can do it, there's absolutely no reason at all why we have anything to fear from this Palace side, and no reason why we can't beat them.
No,
and again, from a Palace point of view, looking at the game at the start of the season, I mean, do you think they'll be a little bit worried about us coming?
They've got to be worried about us. They've got to be looking at our run of form and thinking, I don't really fancy this. This could be one of our. Well, if you look at that series of results that I've just read out to you, then I think this is one of their hardest games that they've had out of the last half dozen. They'll not fancy coming here. The last time they visited Yorkshire, they were beaten. So let's hope it continues that way.
Yeah, historically they don't fancy coming up here as well. It's been a happy hunting ground for us when we're playing against Palace. So little things can really make the difference here. I think it's important that we push them back. I think it's important that we restrict the service to Zaha and Murray. And I think it's important that the fans really make it a passionate, intimidating atmosphere, because there won't have been many places. And again, this is not Sheffield Wednesday fan thinks we're massive and bigger than anywhere else, but you're not going to go to many grounds on a Saturday afternoon this season that are more intimidating and more with more people and with more colour and with more noise than Hillsborough. So let's really make it that way, because that's the sort of thing that will stop these soft southern Jessies in their tracks.
Well, I'll tell you what will be interesting to watch will be to see how Lewis Buxton fares this time, because down at their place, Zaha taught him a new one, didn't he?
Absolutely.
And given how Lewis's form has changed dramatically recently, then I could see Lewis sticking him in his pocket.
Yeah, and also it's going to be interesting to see whether he plays Kizali in front of him as well, because I'm thinking of maybe the old 91 Rumbelows Cup style, Lee Sharp, rampaging down the wing. Well, don't worry, we've got Nielsen, we've got Harks, we'll just put him to bed. With Kizali and Bucky, I think could definitely do that.
The only problem when you're looking at that is, of course, then you've got Antonio. We've got 2 new strikers now, chaps. So if you're going to pay Kizali there, who are we going to leave out?
Well, I would have thought that Helan would be the one to miss out, wouldn't he?
But again, if we're looking at a sort of a defensive-looking side, if that's what Dave Jones is going for, then again, looking at that's the kind of player you're going to need there, Helan, to sort of not only he had a decent game on Tuesday in a defensive situation as well. So I mean, it's an interesting one, James. Again, looking at back at the whole game where we were looking at hitting people on the break, do you think that's the kind of thing we'll be looking for?
It's difficult to second guess how we're going to line up. I mean, Dave Jones will do what he thinks is best, and if he thinks putting Kizali in there is going to suit this game in particular, that's what he'll do. And if he thought that, like he did against Hull, if he thought playing the 2 wide men, JJ and Antonio up front, were going to get us better results, then he'll do that as well. And he doesn't really care what we think, does he?
Absolutely not.
I disagree with Eddie. I can't see Kizali getting back into the side at the moment.
It's a shame.
It is a shame. I love the lad, but it's just wrong for how we're setting up at the moment. What I think will be interesting is that if Lewis can tame Zaha down that side, whether Zaha goes over the other side and tries to have a go at Danny Pugh, because Danny Pugh takes no prisoners anyway, and all you need to do is try and guess when he's going to get his yellow card, because he will get one. Right?
I think we've got to be set up as well as any team to defend against Zaha on either flank, to be honest, because
absolutely.
we've got that flexible, athletic, defensive mindset in there. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm actually more worried about Glenn Murray. He like it or not, I don't think he had a great game against us down at Selhurst, but he still came up and scored the 2 goals, didn't he? And I think you're right. I think we're just going to have to dominate those 2. And I think if we dominate those 2 physically, I think the rest of it is going to be plain sailing. I think we've got enough to overwhelm Palace, going forward.
Look at that game, though, Eddie. Look who we had. We had Daniel Jones on the pitch.
Oh yeah, game. No, it was a completely different team, wasn't it?
And Liera were playing really, really poor.
He was still on summer holidays, wasn't
he? Was that the game where he went to hoof the ball and completely missed it? The old Liera shot.
Yeah, he did. Our defence were really, really poor in that game. It's a different kettle of fish this time. Where I think we need to get hold of this game is in midfield, in the centre midfield. We can't afford for them 2 lads. If it's them 2 again, right? If it's Coke and Prutton, we cannot afford for them to have a game like they had last night. They have to be on the ball right from the off. And take this game by the scruff of the neck, and one of them has to man up and really rip the testes off it. It does. This is one of them games that we really need to show Palace that we are the boss. And if Coke, as much praise as we've given him of late, if he isn't up to it, then I'm sure that Dave Jones will get the hook out and hike him off and Reece McCabe will be on. Because one thing we found out that if things aren't working, Dave Jones will change it as soon as he sees fit, whether it's in the 10th minute or the 80th minute.
There you go, Dave Jones. That's all the information you need. Just scribble that down, chaps. And trust me, take our advice. We know what we're on about. So then, chaps, there's not been a great deal of other Wednesday news really this week. Of course, the Dave Jones saga rumbles on with the courts. It seems he has been fined now, but obviously. Let's hope that's an end to that, and let's put it all to bed. But it's just one of those things, isn't it, chaps?
Well, it is, but Oatway got away with nothing, didn't he?
He's a nobody, so of course he got away with nothing.
Yep, and Dave Jones did say that. He did call him a nothing, didn't he, Dave? I think Dave Jones called him a nothing, and he said, well, that's why the FA haven't done anything with him, because you can't charge a nothing with anything. So he is right.
Love him.
Well, yeah, Oatway's just a nasty little so-and-so, isn't he? And it don't bear thinking about. It's just a load of rubbish, really, because even Dave Jones's punishment is suspended, I think, isn't he? You know, in case he does wrong again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's be honest. Jonesy's moved on, hasn't he? He clearly doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to go into specifics about it. He's decided that he's not going to get a result out of the FA, so he's just going to move on. And you know, that's Dave Jones all over, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Chuff 'em, chaps. Chuff 'em to bits. So then, chaps, I think that just about wraps us up for this week, unless any of you boys have got anything that you'd like to add?
No, I'm just reading this bit here. It makes me laugh. Right, that Lee Clark thought that Zigic, he was pleased with Zigic's performance last night, that he answered his call. Well, if he thought that was an improvement last night, just how bad was he before that?
No, I think what he's talking about is that he put in a call later on at night for someone to go get him a kebab, and Zigic drove to his house and delivered a large chicken shish. So well done.
Oh dear, no, Zigic, hilarious.
Actually, your lordship, we were talking, weren't we, about players' wages being too high and all this sort of business, and I talked about that chap at Portsmouth who he sort of held him to ransom a little bit, etc. Was it Sully Muntari? Is that the chap we were talking about?
I think you might well be right there, old boy.
Right. Well,
Never ever heard that name in my life.
Oh well, I think that's who I was thinking of at the time. Well, you know what? Shows how much I know about football, because tonight he scored to put AC Milan 2-0 up against Barcelona in the Champions League quarter-final. So clearly he was worth 10 times as much as what anyone was paying him. So Sully, if you're listening, you probably are. I'm sorry, mate. You know, you are a much better player than Nikola Zigic. You are worthy of a spot in anybody's World 11 right now. And keep on doing what you're doing, son.
Done a good show. So, Beastie, Eddie, while you've got your mic there, or boy, if people want to get a hold of you over there on the Tinterwebs, where can we find you?
I am on Twitter, of course, at Sausage Arms. And you can also contact me through Wednesdayite. If you go on the Wednesdayite website at wednesdayite.com, you will find out how.
Absolutely, yeah, do head over there. Beastie, old boy, where can people find out of you over there on the Tinterwebs?
You can catch me at #IHeartZigic. Oh, here's another one that I like. #Dave Jones predicts twitchy end. And my head's been twitchy for quite a while now. You can get me on Twitter at Beastie_, or, of course, over at owlsalive.com.
Fantastic. Of course, ladies and gents, you can get hold of the podcast over there at Twitter as well, at TWWcast. Please do pop over to the website as well, at www.thewednesdayweek.com. And, of course, all the usual places you can get us are over there as well. So, chaps, let's have that great big rousing hurrah for the chaps on Saturday day.
Hurrah!
Thank you very much, boys. And, of course, ladies and gents, it's a very good evening from everybody here at the Wednesday Week, and we shall see you very soon.